That's right.
Both at the presidential. I think the only name that has come out is
Bridget Jukwenuku of the PPP. Yes.
In the constituency. And if you look at the dynamics of the Kumawu district, the Kumawu district, formerly the Setre Afram Plains district, is one of the 261 metropolitan municipal and district assemblies in the country. And according to the 2021 population and housing census, the population in the area stands at 64,396, with 30,890 males and 33,506 females, which means that looking at the gender,
there are more women than there are men.
But unfortunately, the women don't get representation at the parliamentary level and the presidential level. And if you look at the area, it's surrounded by a farm plains, farming area, and we know women are more into agric farming and so on and so forth. So I'm wondering why the women haven't been able to, just stand up to the challenge, and even just one female MP from the analysis we've done so far since 1996, when all the parties got into the race. No woman at the presidential level, the parliamentary level, and the presidential level has only one. So we're just looking at this and asking the women advocates, the political groups, to encourage the women to also, because you see, if there's so much representation by the men, it doesn't augur well for the society, because we know the role that women play. Is it education? Is it lack of it in the area that is not, making the women come up? Is it the quality of women we have in the area? What is it?
I think for a lot of women, whenever I engage, even those who are already in the system, they talk about the sort of strife and stress of our political landscape, and the nature in which sometimes it can be a very brutal battlefield, if you will. And as a woman, when you enter the race,
I think that
when you enter the race, sometimes there are a few things that can make things turbulent. But that isn't to say that more women shouldn't be taking up the mantle. I've seen a lot of also young women show interest. Look at what's going on in Tanzania. I've been following the journey of Samia Suluhu Hassan. And since she took over as president of Tanzania, a lot of the commentary is that things have taken a radical but positive turn. Across the globe, we see the brilliant things that women in high positions of power are able to do with that different touch. Women bring a different perspective, and also as great managers of the home, able to multitask. I think it really helps. And that soft touch is something that we need in our society.
I honestly think that it's time the women also stop making excuses with the strife and all of that. I mean, we've seen women in this country. We've had the Beijing conference. We've seen the likes of Hawa Yakubu. We've seen Nana Kumawu, Rajima Rollins. We've seen Hannah Tete. We've seen Frances Siam. We've seen too many of those. Otiko Jaba herself, Katrina Feku. We've seen them, Barbara Otinjesi. So many of them who have come, onto the front burner, Sharia Ite and the rest. I think that women need to be, to stop hiding behind that. Because the point is,
I think it's valid. I wouldn't call it hiding, Johnny. In my personal and respectful opinion, I wouldn't call it hiding.
We've been at this since 1992. And since 1992, women have had the fair opportunity to contest.
By whose assessment, Johnny, that it's fair?
In my constituency, for example, we've had the first female MP. It didn't used to be like that. You understand? So the opportunities are there if you put yourself up. I think that the whole idea of the way has to be paved for the woman to walk through. When we're talking gender equality these days, it does.
According to the UN, it's going to take women some 130 years to reach the same levels of positions of power as men. They don't say that just because women don't have the tenacity, the power, or the vim. If I personally, looking at the terrain, there are certain things in our society, they tag you as a woman. It never leaves you. We've seen men go toe-to-toe, give blows in parliament, and somehow they're able to bounce back. There are certain things that women do in our society that they can never recover from. I would not subject myself to some of the insults that come out of being in politics.
What has it been said about Esla Osuekufu?
Why should it be? Why should I subject myself to that?
No,
why should it be?
It's not a question of subjecting yourself to it. But the moment you want to take on an Ablakwa-like kind of fight and fight the National Cathedral, those comments will come. Those comments are not supposed to be gender gender based.
Okay, so
you got. I want to make my point. I'm saying that if flip the coin and give this national cathedral matter to Zaneto Ajima Rollins, who's saying it, people will say the same things they're saying against a black one.
And more. Women get more personal comments. Next thing you know, where's your baby daddy?
I've not finished,
very personal.
I have not finished my
Go ahead.
I'm saying that once you take on the subject matter, you should know that it comes with certain repercussions. Sam George is talking about the fact that he's been put on a money laundering list, he can't travel, so he heard the story because they are taking on a certain cost to let their voice be heard. So to the end that no woman is barred from contesting, to the end that the political parties will support women because they are qualified, to the end that women themselves have the opportunity to put their foot forward. We cannot say that. I mean, look at...
We can say that.
Yes.
Johnny, you cannot say we cannot say. We can say that. And I am saying that.
Hawa Komsin is our Minister for Fisheries.
Right.
We saw Hawa Komsin's performance at the vetting table. People made the argument that because we did not have a lot of women, she should just be made to go through. But are we looking for people to go through? Are we looking for quality? Because we're going to be paying. Is she giving us quality? Because within that same government, there are also women, and I'll continue mentioning Esla Osu Kufu. I'll mention Barbara Isi. I'll mention Otinge J. I'll mention Otiko Jaba. I will mention Katrina Feku. Within that same place, I'll mention Fatia Abubakar. They are all women. Aren't they women? Aren't they mothers too?
Well, my point is still valid. It is still my point. It is still my assertion. It is still my opinion.
All that we've said, I mean, are on the table. There are things that we cannot gloss over. There are issues that have come up when it comes to women participation. I mean, the financial muscle to even contest as MP. I mean, we are hearing millions, is it $1 million or 1 million cedis? Just this week, the majority leader was making that point. I mean, women traditionally don't make that a lot of money. That's number one. Culture. Our culture too must begin to see women as potential leaders, people who can do what men can do. I mean, that's a fact. So if at the end of the day I'm married to a woman who is rising, the man should encourage rather than feel threatened. That's also another point that we should look at. So basically what we need is this affirmative action thing in respect of the political parties giving some little, I mean, it must start from somewhere. They should give them some little, support, if you like, to when people say, look, for affirmative action's sake, we're going to fill the woman. And because it's a stronghold, or if NDC is in K2 North or K2 South, we say that we put a woman because we know there she will win anyway.
So that was the point I made about Okankwe South. Okankwe South originally had an NDC MP in 1992, for obvious reasons, because the MPP boycotted. In 1996, Nana Komia comes on.
Yeah.
He stays on until 2012, and then in comes Ahmed Arthur. There were women in the constituency. You remember the famous Vicky Bright?
Yes.
And the back and forth with Nana Komia, and people thought that, well, she's qualified, she's good, but, and those concessions were made for Vicky Bright because when Nana won in the first instance, she was brought to the presidency to work at the presidency. At some point, she gave up. But that paved the way for a certain Dakwa Newman to come in young to offseat a sitting MP. You get the point.
I get
because hold on, because in 2016,
yes,
and no, in 2020, when the die was cast for people to contest, Dakwa Newman had a team that went underground to actually do a lot of engineering. That look, the men have represented. It's now time for the women to represent. The question is, what are you bringing to the table? She brings it to the table, and then some deal was broken. Okay, you go for chairmanship, I go for the MPship. You go for constituency this, I go for this. And then that arrangement was done.
The example
you get the point.
The example is given solid. But I'm saying the names you are mentioning, those names bring to the fore the point I'm making. Dakwa Newman. I come from a Kropong. And you know Dakwa Newman's father. You know where he sat in MPB before he departed.
Right.
He was the director of research at the
presidency.
So the muscle was there for Dakwa Newman.
In terms of what? You're not suggesting that she came to influence the people with money.
No. In terms of, but of course, if you are doing parliamentary politics, you need money. Not necessarily influencing. You need to go around. And that kind of muscle, the women of Kumawu may not have. That's what I'm saying. The party should give them more support, more consensus.
But is it not?
So if you have a Dakua Newman who has the intellect, who has the capabilities, who has the exposure, the worldview and things to, come and serve the people of Okaku North, Okaku South. But the muscle is not there to be challenging.
But you see, William,
so
again,
the political parties should make the conscious effort. That's what I'm saying. They should look at their strongholds.
William, it comes to the point where, for example, and we're looking at Kumawu as a focal point, but we're using that to mirror the situation around the country.
Of course.
Let's look at somebody like Edem Agbana. What is his financial muscle? But there are people who believe that Edem Agbana is the man who should represent us, even though he's younger than all the candidates and all of that, but he's the one to represent us. So they would pull whatever resources they have to support him.
Okay, so
how did Ablakwa get into parliament? How did Sam George get into parliament?
Okay, so I'm suggesting that
you get the point.
NDC.
I get the point, and Johnny, I don't disagree with you, gentlemen. I don't disagree with either of you.
NDC, MPP, CPP, PPP, DP, all of them will say, look, this we all know is a stronghold for NDC. I mean, that's what the research will show. Right. But because we want women to go, let's all field women.
Yes.
So that whoever wins, and of course the NDC will win Ketu South and Ketu North.
I mean, Johnny does have a point that women do need to be bolder. I don't actually disagree, and that is the truth. But two things can be true at the same time. It is very true that our women have to also get a backbone. We need to be stronger. We've taken our foot off the pedal, I'll be honest, and we've kind of relaxed. But also, it is also true that the terrain can make it a bit scary. And I don't. So I think these two things exist, and I just want our men to also maybe see it from our perspective. Sometimes women go into politics, and yes, the insults come, but the women's insults now start to take a different nature, a different color.
So I wouldn't say the men should, society should. Because because some of the women even discourage their own women.
Yes, women, sometimes women
some of the worst insults come from women to women.
So really, society as a whole, and women should also not discourage other women. Sometimes women show interest. You're in a group of them, hey, that one, they don't go there, don't go there, don't go there.
It's easier to put 10 men in a room and they don't know each other from anywhere. And the next thing is,
that
bro,
one
chief, chairman. We call us, bro, chief, chairman, manche, nukpa,
women too do it. Hi, darling, sweetie, how are you?
You don't do boss. So Professor Samuel Adu Gyamfi is joining us on the phone. He is with the Kumawu University of Science and Technology. He's a historian and a political scientist. Prof, good morning, and thank you so much indeed for your time this morning. Hello, Prof. Good morning. How are you doing? Prof, can you hear me? Good morning. Prof, 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 good morning. Hello, Prof, good morning. Prof, good morning. Good morning. Hello, sir. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hold on for me. I think there's a bit of a technical challenge. In 2 minutes, I'm sure we can get that fixed. This is Sunrise on 3FM on 92.7. Prof, good morning. Can you hear me? Hello, Prof. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Sunrise. Start your day with Sunrise on 92.7 3FM. .7 3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
He be my protector, somebody go higher. Yo, baby, I need Pabeka. My God be my provider. He be my protector.
3FM 92.7.
I don't do them anything.
3FM Sunrise.
Let's connect now with Professor Samuel Adu Gyamfi. Prof, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for your time, sir.
Good morning, my brother. I hope you are doing well.
I am greater than Accra. Prof, Kumawu is voting today. Your initial comments, having taken a look at their campaigns and the bevy of political heavyweights that have visited the constituency within this short period of time, what do you say?
Yes, very interesting by-election because I consider it as a warm-up into 2024. It gives the political parties the opportunity to do some dress rehearsal and better still stretch their muscles to see how best they can run the 2024 marathon. So it's a good exercise for them. And they're exercising their political jaws, they are exercising their muscles, tendons, and sinews, if you like. But on the substantive issue, I believe that the NDC is anticipating that there will be some glitch within the NPP as a result of an independent candidate who also anticipates to cause an upset. However, some believe that a strong MPP enclave as such might not give the seat, to the NDC, especially in a by-election and in a parliament which has had a semblance of a hanged one because of the fact that it took a former MP to cause that sway the MPP really needed to be able to govern the House. I think that people are anticipating that there could be some upset, but I'm not too sure that the NDC will be able to deliver that, if you like, promise to themselves in this election. However, I also do not think that the margin will be as huge as some have anticipated. I think that as a result of an independent candidate, as a result of different actors showing interest, it might have the propensity to reduce the actual votes that will go to the MPP candidate, even if it doesn't deal with the margin in terms of percentage. So there are other dynamics that might come up, but I think fundamentally we hope for a good, if you like, competitive election, by-election, and I hope that both the MPP and the NDC and the other actors will take a cue from this dress rehearsal going forward to look at how the 2024 elections will come up. Right.
Well, Prof, if you look at the figures cumulatively, you would see that each time there is an independent candidate in the mix, the NPP comes first, that independent candidate comes second, and then the NDC comes third. Now, in this by-election, there are two independent candidates, both bearing the same names. Do you get the indication that this, the trend as we have known it, MPP first, independent second, and then NDC third, could change because we now have two independent candidates?
No, I mean, you know that the Kukudia narrative, right, came about because of a strategy of the MPP, I think, to disrupt the opposition candidates and to allow them to have a win, at least to take away from the opposition candidate. But it's clear that there isn't any quiet within the MPP in Kumawu. It is quite clear that the people of Kumawu are anticipating a kind of, if you like, developmental-oriented election, or better still, a kind of candidate who would properly represent them and represent the country. Having said that, my analysis also comes on the back of the constituents of Asante, especially in some constituencies, having a say to say that they were not too excited about the performance of government, and their MPs were even challenged. The Swami MP had a challenge as a result of that, and other MPs were even chased out from their own constituencies and all that. So it seems to me that the Asante constituents and for that matter Kumawu would want to juxtapose these kinds and types of elections to development, among other things. And so I'm anticipating that it will not just be party affiliation or party voting per se, but whoever comes out would be somebody who would have won based on a keen competition. And that is what the MPP itself has seen, and that is why they would sometimes want to play foul adopt Machiavellian strategies and try to, that's what politicians do anyway,
right.
and to find ways of dealing with their opponents in such a way that they would not be able to compete competitively going forward. So it's a strategy, but I'm not too sure that it will take away everything from the opposition candidate. I think that they might make some good inroads into the MPP vote and even possibly into the NDC vote. But the dynamics is that I'm not too sure the percentage in terms of margin of win will be too huge. And if my prediction becomes the case, then I believe that the NDC and other actors would want to leverage on that, scaling it up to look at a broader Asante and how they can look at the dynamics going forward to make some inroads, i.e. to increase the gains of their candidate Mahama and better still increase the fortunes of their parliamentary candidates. It is anticipated that in Asante and in the voter region in particular, we would begin to see both the NDC and the MPP making inroads into the parliamentary rules. And that will help because it will deal with the question of rubber stamping majoritarian parliament, and also it will deal with the dynamics of party affiliation, party voting, and allow the real kingmakers be those persons who are interested in development and democracy tied to developmental agenda.
There are three schools of thought, Prof. One says punish the NPP so that the speedy development that happened within a short time would be a lesson to all political parties. There's another that says vote for the independent candidate so that we punish both the NDC and MPP because they have been in power since 1992 and we haven't seen much there, so because they are one and the same. And then there's a third one that says vote for the NDC so that it will at least give the government a wake-up call. Which one of these is true?
It would have been exciting if we're looking through the real politics. I mean, really shows that it is still NDC MPP fight. However, it's quite interesting to note that in terms of theory, it would have been interesting to have an independent candidate who will not necessarily, if you like, maybe oscillate toward the MPP, but rather oscillate toward the opposition, to rather give our parliament the independence in the strictest sense to be insulated from the executive and to serve as a check and a proper check on the executive. So it would have been interesting with the type of parliament we have now, the kind of parliament we have, to have an independent candidate winning. And again, it would have also given the broader masses the opportunity to look at further dynamics. Can more independent candidates emerge? And would that become the kind of third force, the test of a third force in our body politics? And can that grand test be executed in Asante? And if that is doable, then it's possible that same could be replicated elsewhere in the country. But that is a textbook analysis. In the actual sense, I think that it will not be easy to make set projections within the scheme of things.
And so now the top brass of both political parties have shown their faces. In fact, some are still there. Recently, not so long ago, we spoke with the Honorable Obi Amoa, who is Minister of State at the Local Governance Ministry and is also the MP for Ekuapem South. They are on the ground. Will that mean anything to the electorates that, well, finally, our big men and women are here? Should we behave or should we misbehave?
It will mean a lot. It will mean a lot. I'm anticipating that voter turnout will increase, and that's very essential. If it does not increase, I'll be surprised if it doesn't increase. But in my sense of surprise, I would also then say that then the people are angry. They are not too enthused or thrilled about our democracy, our elections, and all the kinds of things we have talked about and pundits have promulgated and talked about. Postulated rather and talked about. But I think fundamentally it should pull the crowd. It should pull the constituents to want to come to the polls, and that is very significant if you're able to get that. And I use that to leverage on the discussion to talk about 2024. That will mean that if they are committed enough to go to the grounds and to engage the people and have, their big weights to be there, it can pull the masses to come to the polls. Once that is doable and possible in Kumawu, it should be exemplified across board. The second indicator is that once they are there, the people also get excited. There's a sense of euphoria that these are known names we hear on radio, television, who play significant role in our body politics and in our political parties. Today, as a result of a by-election, they've come to be with us. That sense of, family reunion has a certain sense of euphoria which it can create within the political sphere and atmosphere in Kumawu. I beg to say that Kumawu could be, one of the exciting places to be in Ghana at the moment. But we see that, and just to bend back to some of the earlier things we talked about, we see that as a result of this, people are, what do you call it, trying to build roads. KVIPs are coming up. Other forms of development are emerging suddenly. We have seen some abracadabra movements, and that is no surprise to the body politics of this country, because Ghana has seen a certain taste of development in a short moment when we come to elections, in a short moment when we need to engage ourselves as a people and to go into elections. So I say that even though you have the big men in town, even though you have the political actors in town, and that should create a certain sense of euphoria and excitement within the political space, you are also beginning to see that may call for further discussions. That why is it that our politicians are not interested in going into these enclaves, are not interested in engaging in the broader social space and debating themselves concerning development? Some few years ago, the concept of town hall meetings, which yes, President Kufuor, really played a key role in initiating some of these things, came to the fore. The NDP itself did that. But I'm saying that when it comes to the political campaigns like this and there are elections coming up, you see a lot of activities going on. These political parties see the occasion to do rallies, campaign, share their ideas and thoughts, the reason why person A or B should be voted for. Why can't it be that within the same sphere, the political parties, without the ban being lifted, would be involved in town hall meetings to debate themselves? They all set communities the duty of care to encourage civic and civil debates so that we can build our embryonic democracy from the arena of development. Unfortunately, that is not what we have been contemplating on. Our contemplation broadly has been that when we elect a government into power, from the word go, whatever they are doing is to either enable them win power or lose elections at the end of the day. But that is not even contingent upon development. It is contingent upon political strategy to win power, but not to necessarily a strategy to educate the masses, the populace, and also to engage all social actors to bring development. And I think that such gathering and such meeting at Kumawu would give us a certain sense of passion and desire to look into the future and to say that let us have more political discussions and debates. But in my projection, it's going to be very exciting when you have a Bawumia candidate and you have a Mahama candidature, because both of them would have the opportunity to go into the cupboard or cabinet to bring out old goods and perform necromantic rituals to throw against themselves the sense of history, what they have done wrong and what they have done right, to battle it out in 2024.
Prof, and I'll ask you this question about doing business in Parliament. In the past, we have seen the MP for Fomena, Isiama, who went independent. In fact, the president of the day went all the way to Fomena to say he won't do business with him because he had broken ranks with the party. We saw that when he came to the speakership, he was offered the deputy speaker role just so he could do business with the side. His other counterpart in parliament, Joe Sewusu, also went independent at some point, but is doing back business with the government and is actually returned to the fold of the NPP. In this instance at Kumawu, there is Kwekudua Senior and Kwekudua Junior, an uncle and a nephew who both belong to the same political divide or used to belong to the NPP, but have broken ranks and are running independent. Kwekudua Senior says the NPP is the one sponsoring his nephew to confuse his supporters, and that if he wins, he will not do business with the NPP. Do you see this as an empty threat or something that would happen if he indeed wins?
Yes, but I've touched on the element of Machiavellianism just to distort the independent candidate who has the potential to cause an upset or to create, a new narrative for us, especially in the Kumawu area and some of the broader discussions. Yes, it's good to take us back to history. That is history, very, very crucial, very, very important. Our contemporary history has told us that even when you have a glitch, internal schism, tensions between the parties, and then you have an independent candidate emerging who is popular with the masses beyond the party's electoral college, they are able to win. And when they've won, in the first instance, try to send the message that yes, we wanted to prove to our party that we are the popular candidates that who the people, the constituents would really love to vote for. However, because it's an NPP stronghold, or you would find that it's an NDC stronghold, fundamentally, they think that they can present anybody, and that person will win. George is a fantastic, legislator. But he would have missed that glorious opportunity of serving God and country, because the MPP wouldn't have given him a chance. The lessons are glaring and they are obvious. So I encourage, like the former MP did, I encourage, political parties and actors therein to take such steps.
Right.
Especially when they know that they are the popular candidates and they have the capacity and the way to deliver, than the low-key and a lack of intelligence and smart or that candidate who could be likened to a tabula rasa, but is popular among the electoral college, who would win primaries but cannot really deliver and become a better legislator. Look, when they meet in Parliament, the ad hoc committees and the substantive standing committees, right, have strong responsibility to perform.
That's right.
And the kind of responsibility they go there to perform, they perform it in English. We don't speak Patois there. We don't speak Akan. We don't speak Dagbani there. We don't speak any language there. That is one. You need a certain weight to become a very strong legislator,
right.
To be able to support the development of this state. It is not an ordinary business. But look at sometimes the kind of persons who win primaries, because they would have the opportunity to be voted for in the national elections or, regional elections, especially, constituency elections when it comes to the end of the day. They find ways of buying votes. They find ways of gaining, if you like, favor in the sight of the powers that be within the ranks. And they position them as their puppets. And then they have opportunity to go to Parliament. That is why the constituents in Asante began to react and to respond to their own MPs that no way we are interested in development.
Right.
What Kwekudua, if he should win, will he go back to the MPP? The possibility is very high, because
But he has said that he won't do business with them because he sees the machinations.
He will do business with them. You have already taught us history. Unless he does something different, then we would have the opportunity to to learn a new thing in our contemporary history. At least we know history has taught us that these politicians don't tell us the truth. Once they win, they will go back to their parties. And so that is what we have learned from history. That is the nature of the narrative. And so we cannot but only contemplate that if this one should win, he will do something different for us to have a different antecedent and to hope that it will be built upon. But for want of a better scientific evidence, the status quo will remain.
I thank you very much indeed for your time. Professor Samuel Adu Gyamfi here is with the KNUST political scientist and historian. We're grateful, sir.
You're welcome, my brother. My department is history and podcast studies.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And dangerous one. 16 minutes after 9 here on 3FM 92.7. It's a dangerous one. Very, very dangerous. Dangerous. We're in Kumawu. And we understand that the Honorable Samuel Kujetua Blakwa is a polling agent in Kumawu. He's the Member of Parliament for North Tong in the Volta region. He's a chief crusader against the National Cathedral because he says that it is ill-timed, ill-planned, and the spend is unnecessary, and that there's too much corruption happening around it. Well, guess what? He traveled all the way to the Ashanti region to be a polling agent. Says he has his eye on the ball. And I can imagine out of the 72 polling stations, the caliber of persons that the parties will be fielding. We'll get you all that detail as we travel along. I know that on 3FM 92.7 on TV3 and on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter pages at 3FM 927, we will be sharing all the fine details with you, and we'll be bringing you all the updates about Kumawu and matters arising, because we're doing a full coverage of the by-elections in Kumawu to find a replacement for the late MP Philip Baswa. But one house, 5 beautiful ladies, 5 attractive gentlemen, all under one roof with one mission. Which couple perfectly matches? Catch all the excitement on Perfect Match Extra, free online at pmextra.tv. At pmextra.tv, 24 hours daily. Also watch the live shows on TV3 at 5:30 a.m., 2 p.m. and from 11 p.m. daily, as well as the live eviction and recoupling shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. sharp. Perfect Match, love, betrayal, reality. Keep watching TV3 for the first in news and best in entertainment. Hey, Perfect Extra.
Danger, I'm so dangerous. Don't you.
3FM Sunrise. Start your day with Sunrise on 92.7 3FM.
When it's in a